Welcome to Revolution Televised. This week's discussion, we're going to be talking a lot about healthcare. We're also going to be talking about the upcoming elections in November. We've got two guest speakers. One's pre-recorded, but our first guest speaker is going to be Karsh with our moderation team, and then we've got a pre-recorded segment highlighting the Lee Carter campaign and what's going on with healthcare in Virginia. That's going to be by Tom McIntyre. He's our deputy director over at the Political Revolution PAC. Karsh, do you want to go ahead and announce our upcoming AMAs?
For sure. So first off, we have that town hall that you were talking about tomorrow, a healthcare town hall with Lee Carter. He's running in Virginia with a bunch of the other candidates for the House of Delegates races. So you'll hear later, Tom is talking about, the blue wave taking over our country. Well, I mean, this is the progressive wave in Virginia. Let's see how healthcare can do at the state level. So tomorrow, that'll be from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. Then after that, we have our traditional AMAs with Nicole Johnston. She's running for city council in Aurora, Colorado on the 16th. So this Thursday. Or sorry, that should actually say the 18th or the 17th, this Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m. Then next week, our endorsed candidate, Brian Gary, who's running for city council at large in Cincinnati on Tuesday, the 24th from 12 to 2 p.m. Then finally, we have Ruben Major wrapping around this month, who's running for Secretary of State in California, the 26th from 2 to 4 p.m. Now, there might be some AMAs that fill in the gaps here and there, but let us know if you want one, and you can always reach out to us at ama@political-revolution.com. But I'm going to throw it back to you, Glo, and let's talk about some of the elections that are coming up.
Yeah, thanks, Karsh. So this coming Tuesday, October 7th, we have a general in Massachusetts. Those are the state Senate seats for Bristol and Norfolk District. There is a endorsed candidate, Paul Feeney, running. He's been endorsed by Our Revolution and the subreddit. He's running as a Democrat. And then, of course, November next month is going to be a huge month for progressives across the country. We've got local elections, local generals happening across the nation, and you can view the specific election dates on our election calendar on our website, political-revolution.com. And then we've also created a election ticker to ramp up, and you can count down with us at political-revolution.com/election-counter, and that link is also in the YouTube description for you guys. So we're going to jump right into our first discussion topic. Like Karsh mentioned, on Monday at 1 p.m., we're going to be doing a virtual town hall. This is something that we haven't done before. It's going to be a variation of an Ask Me Anything. Lee Carter, candidate for Virginia delegate, is going to come on and talk about healthcare. There's 15 delegates, 15 other delegates that have introduced healthcare legislation. A little bit later, we'll talk about why it's so important to be pushing Medicare-for-all at the state level. But now we're going to screen our audio clip from Thomas McIntyre. He's actually worked for the Lee Carter campaign over there in Virginia. So he has a great insider's perspective about what's going on in the ground. And he's going to talk a little bit about the healthcare legislation.
Hi guys, it's Tom McIntyre with the Political Revolution PAC, speaking on Lee Carter today. From the field, I'm hearing a lot of great things. He just recently got a DSA endorsement. from Nova DSA and DC DSA, and they're coming out every weekend to knock doors and make calls for them. They come out in full force too, guys. They come out 40 at a time, 30 at a time, and it's really motivating to hear. But even beyond that, people in the district are coming out and supporting them. You know, I see signs everywhere. Just the other day, I saw on Facebook, a friend of mine put a picture of a corner right downtown, right across from Jackson Miller's office, with Lee Carter signs. And these are people who typically support Republicans. So it's really motivating and really happy to see that even Republicans are saying, we don't want Jackson Miller anymore. We want change. We want progress. And that's what Lee Carter is going to provide them. But other than that, he's doing great. He's fundraising. He's talking to voters, and it's going to have a lasting effect. Now, his opponent, Jackson Miller, obviously the Republican whip, is kind of on his heels at this point. You know, there hasn't been much in the way of any kind of social media campaign or mailing campaign, not yet at least, or even canvassing. He's been to a few events, and he's talked to a lot of businesses, but not really a lot of people. I think that at the end of the day, we're going to be pleasantly surprised with his inability to really kind of go out there and do things. But I can't say that's all true, because he just got a $61,000 donation in kind from the National Association of Realtors for voter contact, which typically will mean mailers. And so I think the next few weeks are going to be very interesting for this race. It's my biased opinion, obviously. It's the most important race in Virginia. I think that this leads the charge for what progressives can do. I think that this is a good bellwether for how 2018 is going to go for our candidates. But I think Lee's going to do great. I think even with these recent potential attack ads, Lee's always been able to brush it off and just talk about the issues, talk about what needs to change. And I think that's what people want to hear, especially working class folks like the overwhelming majority of Manassas is. However, in more recent news, Lee has, along with 15 other delegate candidates, including our own Steve McBride, announced a single-payer health care plan in Virginia. This is a state-level plan, something that hasn't really been talked about recently. All the attention's been on the federal level. However, with recent threats of Blue Cross Blue Shield and Anthem to pull out of the healthcare marketplace, it goes to show us that the federal government can no longer be a reliable partner in the fight for healthcare for Virginians. So Lee developed this plan based off of what we call the Austrian model, which provides for all basic necessities covered, and anything beyond that, like a private room or a certain type of procedure that isn't necessary, to be provided through a supplemental health plan, a supplemental health insurance that you can buy from a private market. This is going to be crucial in the next few years. It starts with expansion of Medicaid, and it ends with the development of all the funds to create a health insurance infrastructure run entirely by the state government. It'll not only standardize service, but it'll provide service for Virginians, incentivizing incentivizing healthcare companies to open up in markets previously untapped because of their uninsured population. You see a lot about the RAM clinic. These RAM clinics will become essentially, for the most part, obsolete because these healthcare companies will be incentivized to move down there and to open clinics down there because it's money. It's guaranteed money. Not only that, but because it is government run and because the government is the only payer for the majority of services, this will, over time, decrease healthcare costs in Virginia, which are across the country, let alone in Virginia, astronomical. Virginians pay about $41 billion a year in healthcare premiums, and this plan calls for $23 billion a year just to cover everyone. So essentially what we're looking at is instead of paying $41 billion to your private healthcare provider, you're just going to pay $23 billion to the state and get better care and get more reliable care and not have to worry about if you're going to be insured at this hospital versus that hospital. I'm excited to see what comes out of this. I'm excited to see the progression. Hopefully our candidates will win. I knock on wood, I think they will. But once we get Medicaid expansion, we can really start getting to work. And we need to get more progressives elected. And that's what we do here at Political Revolution. We want to get progressives elected on the state and local level because they impact your life more than anyone else. So I appreciate your time. If you have any questions about Lee or his policy plans, you can always contact him. His email's on his website. or you can just reach out to him on Facebook. He always responds that way as well. I'm excited to see the change in Virginia that's going to be coming. I think that we're on the cusp of a blue wave. If not this cycle, then next cycle. And I hope that everyone in Virginia can kind of go out there and learn who their delegates are and kind of learn, who can run in their stead. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Well, again, that was Tom McIntyre. He's our deputy director over here. He's just another example of the diverse kind of people that we get coming into our doors. He's worked directly for the campaign. So it's really a quantified thing that we're doing when we talk about progressive action. We talk about the Progressive Grassroots Network. There are people who have been so inspired that they're running for office, running for or working with these campaigns on the ground. And when you talk about the Virginia delegates and the reality of all of these candidates, not only like electing to run for delegates in Virginia, but they're coming together. They've formed a coalition, really is what it takes, and put their full effort behind Medicare-for-all, which is what it's going to take at every state. So it's really exciting to see these kinds of things come together. When we talk about healthcare, the reason it's so important is that we've got 28, even with the Affordable Care Act, we still have 28 million people uninsured in this country, and the federal or the discussion at the federal congressional level has been very clogged with opinions. Really, I mean, what is what it comes down to, and we have to look at healthcare as data, as what is going on in America right now. Not only do we have, a high uninsured rate, we're one of the only major countries in the world that doesn't provide universal health coverage to its citizens, and our healthcare coverage prices are only going up. Compared to other countries, we spend more per capita, per citizen on healthcare, and yet our life expectancy is going down. So it's really encouraging to see candidates like Lee Carter, and then other delegates that we've endorsed include Steve McBride, and to see them coming together to really champion these issues. And there's people on the ground that are getting excited about this, and it's because healthcare is that important. It's that key issue right now. And we're going to talk about it even more after a break. And we're going to talk about what the political revolution is doing to spread the word about healthcare, about why it's so important, and what are the specific things we can do to keep this, to keep the campaign, keep the movement going forward. So we're going to cut the break, and we'll see you in 5 minutes.
this afternoon. Let me thank our special guests. You know, the media likes to talk about the politics of this event, who's supporting it and why and its impact and blah, 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 blah.
Down, please.
But that's not where the American people are at. The American people want to know what we're going to do to fix a dysfunctional healthcare system which costs us twice as much per person as any other country and yet leaves 28 million people uninsured and even more underinsured. That's what the American people want to know in terms of what we're doing, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. And I want to tell you that I am just very excited about the kind of support our Medicare-for-all legislation is receiving all across this country and right here in the United States Senate. As of today, we now have 16 co-sponsors on this legislation. And in order of seniority, kind of that's the protocol here in the Senate, let me mention to you all of the co-sponsors. Senator Pat Leahy, Sheldon Whitehouse, Tom Udall, Jean Shaheen, Jeff Merkley, Al Franken, Kirsten Gillibrand, Dick Blumenthal, Ryan Schatz, Tammy Baldwin, Elizabeth Warren, Martin Heinrich, Mazie Hirona, Senator Ed Markey, Cory Booker, and Senator Harris of California. And we also have dozens of grassroots organizations all across America who are going to help us pass this bill. Let me begin by bringing up to the podium some folks who have enormous experience professionally and personally in terms of healthcare. They're going to explain to us and to the many people watching us on live stream as to why we need to move toward a Medicare-for-all system. Please welcome Dr. Sanjeev Sriram, who is a pediatrician in Southeast Washington, D.C., and an assistant professor of pediatrics at the George Washington University School of Medicine. Dr. Sriram. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Sanjeev Sriram, and I am a pediatrician in Southeast Washington, D.C. For 7 years, I have cared for a patient I'm going to call Sean. I met Sean when he was 13, newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and still adjusting to checking his blood sugar and regularly doing those insulin injections. I earned his trust because I never judged him when he had setbacks, and I always kept it real. Sugarcoating is not recommended for diabetics. Together, we have made his diabetes and his mental health issues manageable conditions that he controls, rather than his conditions controlling him. He is now 20 years old, a graduate of a rigorous vocational skills program, and eager to get a job. 2 months ago, Sean told me he wanted to look for work in Virginia, but then he would not have Medicaid like he does now. Sean's mother has become a friend of mine, and I've recently learned her health is struggling. She will not be eligible for Medicare for at least 10 years, and none of her 3 jobs come with health insurance. Fortunately, she lives in DC and qualifies for Medicaid, but if she lived in her home state of Texas, she would be uninsured. And his family are like in Southeast DC, and they are like millions of patients community physicians are seeing every day across America. I greatly appreciate how the Affordable Care Act has made life easier for Sean and his family. But their experiences highlight ongoing problems with our healthcare system. Uninsured African Americans are twice as likely as white people to have no coverage if they live in states that have not expanded Medicaid. Too many women and low-income families are stuck in Sean's mother's situation, working multiple jobs with no health benefits, or they're wondering if their health insurance premiums are worth the financial sacrifice. As a physician, I know what Medicare-for-all would mean for patients like Sean and their families. It would mean we are finally making healthcare a basic human right, no matter what you earn, no matter where you live, and no matter what you look like. Doctors like me, and patients like Sean, and mothers like his mom have not worked our butts off to stay healthy and alive just for insurance companies to price people out or for politicians to play games with the basic human right of healthcare. When it comes to health policy, a lot of people
All right, welcome back. So healthcare, when we talk about healthcare right now, I think the first two things that come to everyone's mind are the most recent efforts by the Republicans to repeal and replace Obamacare, and of course, Bernie Sanders' Medicare-for-all campaign. These are very two juxtaposed forces that are acting on us right now. And like I said before the break, it's up to us as a progressive community to start focusing on the facts and start pushing the message of healthcare as a right. That's something that's been kind of thrown around on the progressive wing, but what does that really mean? Right now, again, the US is the only major country that doesn't provide universal health coverage to its citizens as a right. And what that means is when you look at your own health, it's something that you have to live. You have to maintain your health, and not just your health, your physical health, but something that's not talked about a lot is your mental health. So we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, about some of the things we're doing to cover that aspect as well. So what we have to do is, and one of the things that the political revolution is doing is creating these issue-based campaigns and really delving down into the facts and empowering people on a state level to spread this information and give them local-based information that's, you know, pertinent to their constituency. And one of the websites we've created is actually berniehealthcare.com. That's something that we created a few weeks ago. Karsh was actually one of the people behind that as well.
Yeah, I can jump in. It's a shame, isn't it? It's a shame that healthcare isn't quite seen as a human right in this country just yet.
Yeah.
You know, I've kind of worked on these websites. It's just a bootstrap environment. You know, we're looking for coders all the time. So if if anybody wants to help out with these issue campaigns, let's team up for this one, berniehealthcare.com. Definitely check it out. Scroll through and see what we're doing. Essentially, we're propping up these issue campaigns as the political revolution and really delving into, you know, spreading the mentality of these progressive issues that we all share. So Medicare for all, it's not just a wedge issue. This is healthcare. Like you're saying, Glow, you know, this is a human right. We deal with it every single day. So it's really important to spread that word and tell our friends, our family members. And one of the goals we have for this website in particular is actually developing like a heat map. When people sign up and submit, you know, where they're from, we're actually going to show where in the country certain aspects, you know, where single payer is actually the buzz and where we can, you know, grow from and show how it is a mentality really spreading across this country. You know, statistically, it is something that Americans will favor if, you know, we can actually get that legislation in and listen to what, you know, Bernie's healthcare bill is saying, all the sponsors around it. Yeah.
And it all comes down to accessibility of information, the way the information is framed. There's, you know, candidates in the South. Randall Woodfin, you know, just won in the South, and one of his one of his campaign messages was Medicare for all, and he was able to reach people and really educate them on like, what does that mean? I think in Texas, Beto O'Rourke, he's, you know, Medicare for all friendly. I think. I don't know if he's
Yeah, I
actually
remember
endorsed it.
Beto actually. He at first was kind of critical of what was going on with Medicare
Right.
for all.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was this whole thing where potentially, I think the, doctors community
Mm-hmm.
was not sure about how insurance would work out. So like
Right.
it took him a little convincing, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately we all know, right? Medicare for all is going
Right.
to be a better system. And
Right.
yeah, he didn't just sign on because it was like, for the progressive cause and
Right.
didn't want to take it like that. It's actually, he educated himself. And we
Right.
encourage all of you to educate yourself too.
Exactly. And the other thing is that these things break down differently on the state level, which again, goes back to why we're doing these local or issue focused, but also local focused campaigns. If you go on BernieHealthcare.com right now, we've got a states map that's still being filled with information, but you click on any one of the states and you'll see an infographic with how many people are uninsured in your state, broken down by women and children. That's the other thing that is absurd about this whole debate is that we have the highest rate of uninsured children in the world and child poverty. When our children suffer, the whole nation suffers. So that's something to think about. The other thing is people, there's different amounts of people insured under Medicaid and Medicare at the state level. So we've, given access to that information as well. So you can see exactly how many people are actually benefiting from these programs, or, if you yourself are a beneficiary, it really hits home, I think, for a lot of people. So the way that you can educate your neighbors, your fellow voters in your constituency, you can use BernieHealthcare.com as a resource. And of course, if you want to even help work on BernieHealthcare.com, if this is something that's a passionate issue for you, and you want to help fill up that state page with info, that's definitely something that we would encourage you to do and reach out to us. You can join our Slack at politicalrevolution.com/volunteer, or fill out our volunteer application form, join our Discord, just go to the subreddit. That all of that should be in the YouTube's description for you guys.
Yeah, Glow, what you said about us really focusing on these local state levels, and now you're talking about the different states, right? But
Mm.
really, it comes down to the individual, like why are we doing what we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned this last week, self-interest. And
Mm-hmm.
if, like you say, if Medicare for all is in your self-interest, which healthcare, right? It's your body, it's your mental health. All of these things come down to the individual. So we want you to jump in and help us fill this content on this page. We want your skills and assets, whatever you want to contribute to this revolution, because we're all progressive and passionate about all of these things. So it's in our self-interest to really see it through. And if the system improves, then our health will improve, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that's another campaign actually that I don't know if you want to jump into it and talk about it a little, Glow, but we want to do a mental health care week as Political Revolution. We want to host this from October 23rd to the 28th. We're partnering with some of the other progressive subreddits on this, including Sanders for President. And we want to talk about you, right? We want to talk about why you are here today, why you do what you do, and what brought you here. And it's really important to touch base with, where we've been so that we can start moving forward. We're at a point in this, it's 2017 election day, just before we amp up for a really, really momentous year. And, activists, as many of you, the progressive community know, we tend to burn out. And it's not because, of potentially a lot of negative things going around, but it's like we have an affront to our progressive core values. Every day we have to kind of instill this.
Absolutely.
And it can really get you to burn out. So we want to touch base. We want to get down to the individual level. Why do you do what you do? Kind of reinvigorate your passion. And yeah, we're gonna jump right into those stories. We have a few people who've already submitted. Anything about their mental health, anything about their self-interest, these things. And that's what I encourage you to do as well. You know, for me, I've definitely, you know, dealt with a lot of issues in terms of depression and anxiety. And,
Mhm.
you know, it reminds me like why it's so important to have a structure going into progressive activism
Mhm.
and to be able to know your limits and your boundaries and all of these things.
Mhm.
And one of the things we seek to achieve really is to get closer to one another. You know, it's about interpersonally growing this movement and
Mhm.
coming together to talk about it and be okay with a
Mhm.
lot of the issues surrounding mental health, even. You know,
Mhm.
there's a stigma.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a huge stigma, and it breaks down. It's more than just mental illness. It's any form of disability, really. We have volunteers with autism that are coming forward, you know, and they're vocal about their autism, which is, you know, beautiful, I think. What society tends to do is throw these labels at us, you know, put things into understandable boxes, and like that's fine, I guess. I mean, but what the problem is that there's no education behind it, right? It all goes back to education, and it's about framing mental health is not just something, you know, it's more than having a treatable illness, and eliminating the stigma about treatable illnesses, but framing mental health is something that we all need. We all have cycles, you know, strong emotions, you know, emotion. There's an aspect to emotional responsibility that I think, you know, is lost on this country a little bit. I think Trump
Yeah.
is a reflection of all of it. I mean, all the bad stuff. It's just like
Oh God, winter is coming. Winter is coming. So we don't want all these dragons to knock down our walls and oh, spoilers. But at the same time, you know, it's really important to have a healthy structure. Not just, you know, mental health is just a thing that is
Mhm.
there. It's a positive thing, you know. We could really use it as a tool and asset of our own. We're going to actually have more, you know, potential unity as a result, or
Mhm.
um, yeah, you know, we'll know why we're doing what we're doing. I know that, you know, once I kind of really, you know, ruminated, or the journey goes from rumination to processing and really figuring out like why we do what we do,
Mhm.
like I know why I'm doing this. And
Mhm.
it feels great to be able to share to people who also can understand. And
Mhm.
that's the point of education. Yeah.
Yeah,
So look out for
absolutely.
that week. We're going to definitely have a lot of stories, a lot of, you know, ways to cope with burnout and
Mhm.
to come together and really, you know, share that we're the political revolution that's completely inclusive. So
Yep.
we want everyone.
Yeah, that's really what we have to do when we talk about why we do what we do. I think in the context of progressivism, it all boils down to a handful of things. People are oppressed. There is systemic oppression in the society. At the very least, people are economically oppressed. And then healthcare in itself, or the lack thereof, is a form of oppression. So everyone, and my goal, the goal of this org, is to help bring light to those issues. And like you said, really, you know, dig into those areas of self-interest. You know, what was the societal trigger that, you know, brought you to progressive activism, and how can you harness that? How can we help you harness that, empower you, and eliminate any obstacles, mental, physical, that would, you know, prevent you from taking action. And the reason, I mean, the action is so important. It builds not just for you individually, you know, of course we want you to feel personal success as well, not only, you know, we all have a shared successes. We have personal successes. We have a shared success when everyone comes together and we elect candidates like Randall Woodfin. We have personal successes when we say, oh, you know, I just finished a graphic for this website. I just, you know, phone banked. Yeah, let's do those things together. That's what it's going to take. Our entire society reflects, or I think impresses upon us, this illusion of that we're all separate. There's a lot of, you know, emphasis placed on individualism and entrepreneurship, and those are great things. And, you know, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the individual efforts of everyone involved. But then I think to really bring everything together, we have to focus on solidarity and shared suffering, and highlighting these things that are just things that everyone needs. Medicare for all, healthcare is a right, we want to empower other people's voice to turn it from just individual people speaking out to a large echo, which is slowly happening. I don't think Medicare for all has been touted this strongly for a long time. So it's very
definitely
hopeful.
building.
Yeah.
I would have to say one thing we definitely don't want to forget about, right, is compassion.
Right.
That's the one thing I want to see out of all of this too, is like understanding that, even the people we disagree with the most are still people.
Right.
And so one thing that we don't want to forget about in all this is not just about the individuals, it's about our society. And I mean, we don't want to forget about the fact that there are a lot of institutional problems, right? Our prison system, rehabilitation, all of these things are because we have a mentally unhealthy society as well. These are issues that come about as a result of us not really getting to the core of why we do things and why we do things for the progressive mission. Just this Vegas attack, like I was just it's what, 16 years since September 11th. And we still don't have an answer like on how to actually address mental health. So let's talk about it.
So we October 23rd, look out for it. We'll be sending emails, we'll be tweeting, Facebooking, Discording, Redditing, all of it. You probably can't miss it. We encourage you to submit your story. Just self-publish on Medium, and you can email us the link at info@political-revolution.com. You can jump on our Discord and just PM me. Don't care. If you want to submit it anonymously, we'll have a form that we'll be emailing out shortly, and of course posting on the Reddit and the Discord. We really, really hope to hear your stories and help us normalize some of these things, and hopefully bring us closer together as a community and empower us to be able to continue to speak out about these very, important issues. And I think that together we can change the conversation from, I don't even know what the Republican conversation is. All I see is that they want 60 million people uninsured. But anyways, we want Medicare for all, right? And because it's a right, because other countries are doing it and it works, because people shouldn't have to overpay for insurance. They shouldn't have to be denied the treatments that they need. Women should be able to get contraceptives from their employer. They're basic things. So I think that's all for me for today. Karsh, do you have any closing sentiments?
Well, I just wanted to say, next week is that mental health awareness week. But really the focus is, about healthcare, because it includes all of this. So tomorrow, remember, we have the town hall with Lee Carter. And, next week is when we're having the mental health awareness week. But if anybody even wanted to come on and share their story with us here, that'd be great. That's something I think I'm going to do. So I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you. Have a great week, everybody. And thank you for coming on, Karsh.
Cheers. Thank you, Glo.
Cheers. All right. Bye.
Bye.